Now more of the Ethan Bearman program on KGO 810.
I keep tweeting out post-fact era, post-truth America, and I want to welcome back to the show Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. He's president of the nonprofit Intentional Insights. He's also a tenure-track professor at Ohio State. By the way, you can find him at glebtsipursky.com. Dr. Tsipursky, welcome back. Let's talk about this weirdness in the post-truth America.
Happy to do so, Ethan, and it's such a pleasure to be back again.
Yeah, no, thank you. And by the way, no joke, I've been tweeting out for at least a couple of weeks. I keep hashtagging post-fact era, so I find it entertaining that we have similar terminology where you're calling it post-truth United States.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you heard, but the Oxford Dictionary named post-truth its word of the year in 2016. So I'm trying to use a dictionary definition of this term.
Perfect. No, it's an appropriate source. So it is. So all right. So wait a minute. Let's dive into this for a second. Well, first off, obviously every single Trump supporter, well, maybe not every single one, but I would suggest that the overwhelming majority of Trump supporters would say he's not a post-truth president. He speaks the truth that nobody wants to hear.
Yeah, that's probably what they'll say, that there will be a number of people who say that. But if we look at to what extent do his statements match reality, we'll see that a whole bunch of his statements don't match the actual reality on the ground. So that's the nature of truth. Now, you can change the meaning of the word truth, but then you have to use another word. So
exactly.
We talk about correspondence between the reality on the ground and what one actually says, that's the truth.
But and I like that you addressed this in your article on truthout.org. So what? So what about post-truth politics? I mean, isn't that what politicians have always done?
Great question. So what politicians have done in the past has definitely been to lie. No question. Politicians have lied in the past, and I don't doubt that they will continue to lie in the future. Now, what's different about Trump is this really fascinating tendency that when he gets called out on his lies, he doesn't back down. So previous politicians, when they were called out on their lies by the referees of politics, which is the mainstream media, we have politicians on the right calling each other, calling the ones on the left liars, the ones on the left calling the ones on the right liars, and the media are the referee. They're saying, no, the Democrats lied or the Republicans lied. And okay, then either the Democrats or the Republicans back down. Now, Trump doesn't back down. When the media, who is the referee, call him out on his lies, which are lies, then he doubles down and he criticizes the media instead. So this is the difference between post-truth politics and the ordinary base rate lying politician. The lying politician backs down. The post-truth politician does not.
Okay, so I had a question. I actually tweeted this out 6 hours ago. I'm looking at my tweet because of Vladimir Putin. He, according to Agence France Presse, he mocks claims that Trump was spied on. And so I tweeted back, hey, did he also learn from Roy Cohn to never apologize and always counterpunch, or did Roy Cohn learn that from the KGB? And I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Roy Cohn was the McCarthy-era lawyer who, by the way, was a mentor to Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
So these are strategies that are definitely very reminiscent of what's happening in Russia. So it's an interesting phenomenon. In the 1990s, Russia, after the transition from a Soviet Union, actually had a quite democratic country. There was freedom of the press, freedom of expression. You could say pretty much whatever you wanted, and the press was free to criticize the government. And in the 1990s, in the early and mid-1990s, Russians would never think they would go back to the days of authoritarianism and corruption that was there in the Soviet Union and the lack of freedom of speech. But what happened when Putin took power is he started by attacking the media which is the source of verifying the truth. And he started attacking the media, and over time, people lost faith in the media, and then the government was able to take over the media and just control all sources of information. So we see some of the early stages of this happening in the United States, where Trump is undermining the media. He's attacking the credibility of the media. He's threatening to pass legislation which would curtail the rights of the media, slap them with heavy fines if they say things that the government thinks are wrong and improper. And so this is very similar, at least in the early stages, to what was happening in Russia in the late 1990s when Putin took over.
Right, and it's only kind of accelerated, I believe, in Russia. So how do we avoid this acceleration? Right, I mean, I believe you call it a downward spiral of lies and deceit. Right.
Yes.
What do we do with that? I mean, I want to stop that, and I know you do too.
Yeah,
so how do we begin stopping that?
Well, first recognize that this is not a Democrat and Republican problem. This is something that everyone can ally around. Because we can all see, Democrats and Republicans alike, that a country that orients toward falseness, this downward spiral of lies and deceit, will eventually lead to authoritarianism and corruption if politicians are just not responsible to the citizens, and they can do whatever they want and lie to people and get elected if they lie. So that's first, to recognize that it's a across-the-party politics problem. Now, second, we need to get people to care about the truth. So uplifting this message. This is why I'm working to launch a post-lies movement. So we need to launch a movement to orient toward a post-lies future. So we need to create hope. We need to not only say, oh, this is bad, but we need to tell people, here's what the future is. We can have a post-lies future by raising awareness of the danger of lies in politics and help getting people to call out lies in politics whenever they see them on their side of the aisle, whatever their ideological beliefs are, on the other side of the aisle, and orienting toward truth in letter and spirit above all, seeing this as the rules of the game that must be obeyed, and just calling out lies in politics. And there are a lot of strategies that folks can learn about on my website, glebtsipursky.org or intentionalinsights.org, and in the article that you mentioned. But this is the essence. We need to launch a movement.
So, Dr. Tsipursky, though, you probably haven't gone through my Twitter feed to see the responses I get from Trump supporters. So the key is, so a lot of them, they just dig in their heels. I can point out fact after fact after fact, and they just dig in their heels deeper and deeper and deeper. So how do you convince somebody who doesn't want to accept the facts, the reality on the ground, because it doesn't fit their paradigm of what reality should be, and therefore they reject reality and facts and truth?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There are a number of people who we just need to acknowledge but will never reach, and that's okay. That's all right. There are a number of people who just are so ideologically cling to their beliefs that they can't deal with the truth. But that's not characteristic of all Trump supporters.
Correct.
There are plenty of Trump supporters who do care about the truth. If you look at polls, you'll see that about half of Trump supporters believe he won the popular vote. And that sounds very scary because that's a big, big lie.
Right. 2.9 million more votes for Hillary Clinton, period.
Yes. The good news is that, while 52% of them believe that, Trump won the popular vote, the rest are either don't believe that he won the popular vote or aren't sure. So if you go to those folks, considering that Trump won by 60,000 votes in a couple of swing states, if you get the nearly half of Trump supporters who are willing to orient toward the truth despite what Trump tells them, who kind of voted for Trump, not because they liked him, but because, they thought that he was the better candidate, worst of two evils, basically, the best of two evils. You go to those folks and you show them how post-truth politics really damages their interests and leads toward corruption and authoritarianism. I bet they never thought about that. I bet they never thought about how dangerous and harmful post-truth politics is and how it will lead to corruption and authoritarianism in the future. I mean, nobody wants that. So people who are reachable, not nobody, that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, exactly.
Most people don't. Most people don't want that. Yes, thank you.
So I think I think that you bring up a really important point, and that is, those who just simply don't want to ever listen, then you essentially have to write them off until you and focus your attention on those where there is conversation happening. And that's what I try and do is have conversation. For the most part, there are moments where, look, there's no talking to somebody because they can't acknowledge reality on the ground. Always a pleasure. Dr. Gleb Tsipursky is president of the nonprofit Intentional Insights. Again, a tenure-track professor at Ohio State, but it's Gleb Tsipursky. You said .org, or it's glebtsipursky.com, and it's intentionalinsights.org are the websites. Dr. Tsipursky, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show.
Always a pleasure, Ethan. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Really, really do appreciate that. I think it's an important conversation. How do we move past the post-truth era? Okay, I still like post-fact. But, oh my goodness. Speaking of corruption, did you see this one out of South Korea? But also, for as much as Trump is touting all these job gains, there are some huge job losses. And he's going to join me in just a minute to help break all this down. It's our friend Eric Schiffer.